Thank you, Martin Jean from Consultancy Open Road. Damian, very straight question here. One of the reasons why liberty is prized in the US is probably because they have a constitutional amendment guaranteeing absolute freedom of speech. It enables a number of very unpleasant people to say unpleasant things, but it is an absolute right. Would you be in favour of something similar written into the text of a UK law?
Thank you very much. And finally, from that.
My name is Dr. Sam, I'm Managing Director of the company. When I did research for the police in Exeter, a senior inspector said to me that civil liberties is about money. Social services and the police will pick on the liberties and abuse the liberties of the poorest because their briefs and their silks are incompetent and are useless. But they can't go after middle class people because their briefs and their solicitors are rich, they're well briefed, and they usually end up being Tory MPs.
Okay. The first and last question is both about money. Can you be free if you haven't got money? And can you sort of withstand the oppression of the state? It's slightly worrying if a policeman told you that. That is really very worrying. Yeah, of course, more income means you're able to buy more control over your own life. And so, therefore, what I would see is an opportunity society where if you have the talents, you can get through whatever system is available, either state or private system, enough education and training that you can exercise those talents in a way that enables you to develop a level of comfort and prosperity. That means that you as it were, get the add-ons. Either to employ lawyers if the police are oppressing you, which you know about, or to obtain wider freedoms. But I think a sensible way to organise society is to ensure that there is a floor below which you can't fall in terms of the freedoms that you enjoy, and that, it seems to me, is where we're going wrong in Britain at the moment. That actually we are, if you like, lowering the floor, and particularly for people at the bottom end, people who can't afford lawyers, the basic freedoms which they used to take for granted are no longer there. And I mean, I'm not sure how long you've lived in this country and therefore absorbed some of our duller cliches, but things like an Englishman's home is his castle doesn't apply anymore. One of the standard sort of moaning phrases, "Oh, it's a free country, isn't it?" Well, is it? You can ask that now, and at this very basic level in this country, there's always been a feeling that however poor you are, you've got some protection, you've got rights. Society should be fair, and you've got rights, and that's what I worry about, both in terms of high government policy and disturbing remarks from policemen. Can you have unity in a multicultural society? That is a huge pressure, obviously. If multiculturalism means that there are significant numbers of your society that want to live outside the norms of that society, then no, you can't. And I think one of the huge challenges we face as a society, particularly in cities like London, which are have people from a vast number of backgrounds, is to establish and promote what are the democratic values that unite us. Which, so it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what religion you have. There is a core of belief that we share, and actually that's it's a subject that all politicians of all parties have been grappling with moderately unsatisfactorily, I think, for a decade or so, and I'd be in danger of getting partisan if I went on further, but I agree it's a huge issue. Do I believe in absolute freedom of speech? No, I don't, and I don't for practical reasons, that allowing people to promote hatred, I mean, essentially what we have in this country is a law that stops you, inciting violence through the use of rhetoric in speech, and I rather applaud that for the practical reason that if you don't do that, then people may well get killed and injured, and you give more power to the hands of people who everyone would regard as unpleasant. Now, clearly, there's a case for striking a balance somewhere, and we can all disagree about where that balance should be. I think actually having things like race relations law that actually forbid you from promoting violence against a particular race or creed is quite sensible.
Just finally Damian, if I may just ask the final question, and it's on hopefully an optimistic note. What measures do you think we can take legislatively to push the state back? Is there any way in which groups themselves, because it seems to be one of the best defences for citizenry is the restoration of group rights. So certain zones where the state can't go, certain zones that are autonomous. Do you see any way, sort of, for instance, could an estate that had restored trust somehow veto the presence of CCTV and policing it? Do you see any scope for this sort of development?
Absolutely I do, and it's very much a sort of localist agenda, that the more power you give to people, the assumption would be now that if you gave people the sort of control over their own local budget and control over their own estate, as it were, let's stick to your analogy, then what they do is say, marvellous, we're going to spend all this money to have extra police and more CCTV. And I'm not sure that's true. And to some extent, it's not for me or you to dictate that, because I think some people will say, this looks horrible, let's get together and let's relax. And you could experiment in different areas, but to some extent, the logic of my argument is you should push power downwards, because you shouldn't treat the people any less well than you would treat other people just because they are, whether temporarily or permanently, economically poor, and you would trust them to make decisions. And I think that would be a healthy, practical thing to do. The other thing I would like to see is, just as for decades now we've had an argument over how much of the economy the state should control, and politicians on the right try and get it down towards and below 40%, and politicians on the left don't mind if it pushes up towards 50%. I would love somebody to invent a calculus that would enable us to have the same sort of measure of state interference in our daily lives, so that we could actually have an index of interference. This is something of Big Brother watch. I think I should set you this intellectual challenge, so that we could say, in Britain, it's 58% now, and it used to be 48%. And look, I'm deliberately taking the example of, say, Germany, where our economy has become more state-run than the Germans over time. If we discovered that 20 years ago we were freer than the Germans, but now we're less free than the Germans, then that would be quite a vivid way of illustrating what's happening in our society. Now, clearly, we need some sort of respectable and plausible calculus to do that, but it would be an extremely worthwhile task, because once you've got that out there, then you have got a permanent argument to make to people. As we have a permanent economic argument, and you can fit yourself anywhere on the scale, but at least there's a scale you're fitting yourself on.
Damian Green, thank you very much.